Shocking truth, the Bible's mysterious lost food revealed at midnight forever. It was a night unlike any other. The clock struck midnight, and shadows danced ominously around the ancient church, cloaked in whispers. They say the walls can hear you, and on this night, they might have. Beneath the gleam of flickering candles, a gathering of curious souls leaned closer, each one teetering on the edge of the extraordinary. Legend spoke of a missing food, something hidden within the sacred pages of Scripture, something that could alter history itself. Gasps filled the air as an old, leather-bound Bible lay open before them, pages moist with anticipation, but it wasn't just the book, it was what lay next to it. A small vial, cradled gently in the hands of the yet unnamed scholar, shone like a beacon of hope and dread. The rumors swirled: could it be the fabled manna that fell from heaven, or perhaps something far more sinister? The tension was thick, palpable like electricity in the air. A murmur erupted, people's eyes flicking back and forth between the Bible and the scholar as if they could sense that once the truth was unveiled, there would be no turning back. In the corner, an elderly man clutched his chest, the weight of disbelief almost too much to bear. "It can't be true. Can it?" His voice trembled, echoed by the restless murmurs of the crowd. Each person in that room felt a tightness in their chest, a lump forming in their throats, battling between skepticism and innocent hope. What were the true consequences if this lost food turned out to be real? And just like that, out of the chaos, the scholar began to speak, voice barely above a whisper, yet commanding attention. Legend says. The words hung in the air, tantalizingly close, but before they could settle into the minds of the listeners, a creak echoed through the church, slicing through the suspense. All heads turned. A shadow flitted past the window. Did someone see it too? Fear washed over the audience like a cold wave. What were they truly dealing with? Hey, before we continue with this amazing story, I need to give you an important heads up. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube unsubscribed them without warning. Take a quick second to check the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I'd hate for you to miss any of the exclusive content coming soon. And while you're there, smash that like button, it really helps me out with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who's part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's connect. The lights flickered once more, and the tension surged up again like a boiling pot at the edge of eruption. What unearthly purpose did this food hold? Would it bring enlightenment or destruction? As the crowd leaned in, the air electric with fervor, the scholar's gaze darkened, secrets swirling behind his eyes. He took a breath, ready to reveal what he had discovered, but a sudden shout from outside sent everyone into a panic. The door slammed open, flinging cold air and shadows inside, and as they turned towards it, one question hammered in their minds: who was waiting on the other side? The door swung wide, revealing a figure cloaked in darkness, their face obscured by a hood. Murmurs cascaded through the room, anxiety curling in everyone's stomachs. The candlelight flickered wildly, creating choking shadows that seemed alive. The scholar stood frozen, the vial shaking in his hands. This was not part of the plan. Who are you?" One brave voice called out, cutting through the thick silence. The stranger remained silent, stepping slowly forward, the sound of heavy boots echoing against the stone floor. Every eye was glued to them, hearts racing with a mixture of fear and curiosity. Suddenly, the cloaked figure pulled back their hood. A flash of recognition swept through the crowd. A local historian, long thought lost to the world. "You shouldn't be here." Someone shouted, but it was too late. The historian's gaze swept over the crowd, finally landing on the open Bible. "I came for the truth, just as you did," they said, voice low and intense. "But you must understand, some truths are not meant to be uncovered." The weight of their words sank in, wrapping around the audience like a thick fog. The scholar, braver now, stepped forward. "You know what it is, don't you? The food, the lost scripture. Where does it lead us?" The historian's eyes darkened. You believe that recovering such knowledge will bring insight, clarity? You couldn't be more wrong. What you see before you is not simply food, it's a key. A key to unimaginable power, and to unspeakable horrors. Gasps echoed through the room as doubt clouded the air like smoke. The weight of the historian's warning hung heavily, but the scholar wouldn't back down. We have a right to know the truth. You can't just leave us in the dark. But the historians shook their head. Some darkness is a protection. They stepped closer to the light, their face carved with lines of worry. You think this vial is a blessing? That it holds the key to salvation and enlightenment? What if I told you it has driven many before you to madness? What awaits those who dare consume it? The crowd shifted uncomfortably, the flicker of hope replaced by dread. The elderly man clutched his heart tighter, and the murmurs transformed into anxious whispers. Could this truly be a food of divine origin, or was it a trap? The stranger lowered their voice, barely above a whisper. You must choose. Knowledge or ignorance. Salvation or chaos. Before anyone could respond, screams erupted from outside. Shadows darted across the windows, figures scrambling and colliding, as if a terrible force had unleashed chaos upon the town. Panic settled in like a lead weight, and the historian turned toward the door. They've come for the vial. The room collectively inhaled, as breaths quickened and hearts raced. The truth was closer than it had ever been, yet darkness loomed just outside the threshold. The crowd was cornered, with no clear escape. With whispers mounting, the scholar faced the historian. Help us. We need to know what to do next. The historian hesitated, eyes darting around the haunted faces. The decision loomed large in the air, electric with urgency. What would happen if they refused? What revelations hid within the vial, and what dark figures were waiting just beyond the door? As the door quivered under the weight of heavy fists outside, the scholar's resolve hardened. We can handle whatever comes next. Show us the path. Please. And as the last word hung in the air, the historian finally spoke, then be prepared for the truth that might tear you apart. Outside, the chaos erupted further, and the inevitable clash began. As the clamor grew louder, one question lingered above the din: would they be able to withstand the forces wanting to claim the lost food and its dark secrets for themselves? The door rattled violently as the weight of desperation pressed against it. Heavy fists crashed against the wood, each hit sending ripples of fear through the crowd. Faces turned pale, the historian's warning echoing in their minds. What do we do now? Someone gasped, clutching their partner's arm, eyes wide with terror. The historian stepped back, heart racing, as shadows flitted past the windows and frantic voices mingled with the chaos outside. We may not have much time. The scholar's determination faltered for a whisper of a second, doubt gnawing at the edges of their resolve. Was opening up the vial worth the risk? But just then, a deafening crash punctuated the evening, splintering the air and their thoughts. Stay calm. The scholar shouted, their voice barely rising above the rising panic. We need to have a plan. But the historians shook their heads solemnly. You seem to think you can control the outcome, but chaos is waiting just outside that door. With knowledge comes consequence. Yet the scholar's eyes flicked toward the vial, glinting ominously under the candlelight. If we don't act, they could take it from us. They'll unleash what's in that vial for their own gain. Or they'll consume it, and we'll have unleashed a nightmare. The historian's breath hitched, a shiver crawling down their spine. You think power is something to be trifled with? You don't understand what's at stake. The crowd swayed, uncertainty rippling through them. An elderly man at the back shook his head defiantly. What if it's a key to something greater? We can't let fear paralyze us. We need to choose the path toward the truth. Another crash echoed, this time the door trembling as if a great force pressed against it. The historian looked again at the crowd, their heart pounding. This choice, it isn't just yours anymore. It belongs to everyone in this room. Then let's choose together," shouted someone from the front. The boldness sparked a glimmer of courage through a few others, a flicker of rebellion against the looming dread. "Whatever is on the other side, we can face it." The historian sighed, torn between duty and dread. "If you choose to be reckless, I will not be able to stop what happens next. I cannot bear the blood on my hands should this go horribly wrong." Screams from outside grew louder, a menacing chorus of terror. The door shuddered as if a monstrous force strained against it, and the scholar felt their breath quicken. "Then let us face this together." They raised the vial high, lights from the candles dancing against its glass surface. "We'll reveal the truth come what may. What lies on the line is worth our fight." The collective tension snapped as the historian stepped forward, gripping the scholar's arm. "Then prepare for a revelation that doesn't discriminate. If we do this, we're unshackling ancient forces. The room may tremble, but so too might our sanity." With a nod, the scholar inhaled deeply. The glow of the vial seemed to pulse, a heartbeat of possibilities and horrors intertwining. The crowd leaned in, caught in a whirlwind of grim fascination and fear, anticipation pulling at their souls, but before they could delve deeper, another crash splintered the door, and the wooden barrier buckled, cries of terror merging with the impending storm. "Get ready!" The historian shouted, uncertain whether the call was for the fight ahead or for the truth they dared to uncover, and then it hit them. The door flew open, revealing a nightmarish silhouette framed by chaos. What emerged from the shadows was not just any shadow. It was a creature forged from desperation, hunger, and a thirst for what they guarded. "Now." The historian's voice faltered, teetering on the edge of dread. "Now we find out what we have truly unleashed." As the chaos spilled into the room, fear and anticipation froze the air thickly. The crowd held their breath as disbelief knotted in their guts. Was this the price of their choice? Or the beginning of something worse? The creature loomed, its hulking form shrouded in shadows, mismatched eyes glimmering eerily in the dim light. A low growl rolled from its throat, sending chills shooting through the assembly as they instinctively recoiled. The historian felt the weight of fear settle like a boulder in their stomach. These weren't the whispers of a legend anymore, they were alive, breathing, and ravenous for what lay within the vial. "Back!" The scholar screamed, holding the vial tightly against their chest. But the crowd was frozen, eyes wide with terror. They were entranced, unable to look away from the dark promise that hung in the air. A flick of the creature's tail sent a cascade of dust swirling into the candlelight, illuminating its grotesque features: long, crooked claws, razor-like teeth bared in a snarl, and a body that seemed stitched together from the nightmares of 1,000 souls. "What are you?" one trembling voice ventured, breaking the paralyzing silence. "I am," the creature rasped, words dripping with a hunger that silenced the crowd. "The keeper of secrets. The guardian of truths unfit for mortal eyes." Its voice echoed, a rumble creeping into the very bones of the observers' hearts. Fear gripped them, yet curiosity pulled them closer, a maddening dance between dread and intrigue. The historian's mind raced. They remembered the texts, the myths, the tales that blurred between history and horror. Could this be what they'd been warned of? This cannot be what we've summoned. They stepped forward, the weight of their responsibility crashing down like the splintering door. "You weren't meant to be freed." "Freedom?" The creature let out a chilling laugh, each sound slicing through the tension. "All I need is the vial. Allow me to consume it, and I shall unveil the infinite wisdom it holds. Buried for ages beneath the lies of men." The historian felt the air grow thicker. The vial, now glowing bright as if pulsating in sync with the creature's heartbeat, shimmered with unfathomable possibilities. If they gave it up, would they discover truths lost to time, or worse, unleash calamities beyond human comprehension? Panic flickered among the crowd, worry etching itself on their faces. "Don't listen!" shouted the elderly man, now standing gnarled and firm. This is precisely what the historian feared. It's a trap to manipulate us. But others began to turn, eyes drawn to the vial like moths to a flame, enthusiasm sparking in the depths of their fears. Even the scholar felt the pull, battling an urge they couldn't quite understand. Was it the promise of enlightenment? Or the lure of power? Choose. The creature motioned, its claws shattering the air with a swiftness that rendered the room still. Choose wisely, and I will reveal truths untold. Choose foolishly, and your very souls will wither in ignorance. A palpable tension swelled as glances darted, hearts raced. The chaos outside merged with the internal strife, the pounding became indistinguishable between terror and anticipation. The scholar raised the vial higher, blue light flickered. What if we don't choose at all? What if we destroy it? The creature snarled, the shadows swirling around it. Then you doom yourselves to obscurity. We stand at the edge of the dawn or the abyss. Only a single act will break the threshold. The historian's mind spiraled. The crowd swayed like a pendulum, teetering between submission and revolt. What were they about to unleash? A wave of fear crashed through the room, thickening the air, but also a glimmer of hope sparked. Don't let the darkness control you, shouted the historian, voice strained but clear. We can find our own truth without bargaining with this horror. But the creature's laughter erupted again, drowning out reason. And yet here you stand, trembling at the precipice. Will you fall or fly? Every breath hung heavy in that room, a desperate pause before the storm. As the light of the vial flickered uncertainly, everyone could feel it, they were on the edge of a decision that would reverberate through time. Would they brave the unknown and seize control? Or would fear dictate their fate? In that moment, with the crowd caught in suspense, the next blow echoed from another door, a different door bursting open, revealing yet more chaos beyond. Something worse is coming. A voice cried from outside, provoking immediate worry. The weighing question hung in the air like a storm cloud, threatening to unleash a deluge of choice. Would they face the creature, or dare to confront whatever awaited them in the shadows? The panicked murmurs exploded into heated whispers as the crushing reality of the newcomer settled into the room. The darkness was already suffocating, but outside hovered a palpable dread elevating the air. Yet, none dared leave. They were tangled in fear and curiosity, bound to the creature and its tantalizing vial. What is out there? Someone stammered. The historian's grip tightened around the vial. It's not just the creature we need to worry about, they called out, voice shaking but resolute. The chaos beyond this door might be connected to what we've uncovered here. With a shuddering breath, the scholar directed their gaze once more at the creature to find it leaning closer, eyes gleaming with predatory excitement. An interesting theory, it rumbled, voice like an ominous thunder. Perhaps whatever lurks in the depths of the night is drawn to the knowledge I seek. Release the vial, and I shall help you vanquish it. Resist and you may become the catalyst of horrors beyond comprehension. The room was electric, a silent battle raging in every heart. Those who had been drawn to the light of the vial now exchanged glances, uncertainty twisting their faces. Then, a scream shattered the tenuous atmosphere, raw and chilling. It's here! A woman cried, stumbling backward in terror, her eyes wide, fixed on something unseen. Suddenly, a shadow bloomed in the doorway. An arm, long and spindly, snaked its way into the room, fingers curling like skeletal branches, fingertips brushing against the doorframe. The crowd gasped, frozen by the grotesque sight as more emerged, twisted figures with sunken eyes and anguished faces, moving as if entangled in their own nightmares. "We can't stay here!" shouted the elderly man again, his voice cracked and urgent. "We have to make a choice. Now!" Yet, the creature spoke again, low and honeyed, as it reveled in the chaos. "You see? This is what I mean. A choice looms over you like the swords of Damocles. Will you give in to fear and hand over your power? Or will fear fuel your strength?" The historian felt their pulse speed up, a tidal rush of adrenaline flowing through them. The faint glow of the vial began flickering dangerously, pulsing erratically as if responding to the chaos brewing around them. A knot of indecision tightened in their chest. This was the moment, a precipice not just of knowledge but of survival. What if the words spilled out before the historian could stop them? What if we divide our focus? We can't just face one threat. We might engage the creature while we prepare to defend against whatever is coming. We need to fight on two fronts. Whispers erupted again, voices bouncing off the walls, a torrent of fear meeting anger and desperation. Together we are stronger, shouted a young man, emboldened by the historian's idea. The creature snarled, its mismatched eyes shimmering like a mirage of something far greater. You think you can outsmart me? You flounder like fish at the edge of the net. But your courage, I find it appetizing. The figures at the door began moving closer, their forms twisting as they moved into the candlelight, faces naked with desperation. They no longer felt like a part of this world too far gone for salvation or redemption. It was now a race against time. Form a line. The historian bellowed, adrenaline sharpening their senses. Vial in the center. Keep it protected. Let us fend them off together. As they positioned themselves, a sudden crash sounded behind them. Something had just broken through another door. The room rattled with impending chaos as the seconds dragged on. The final tipping point had been breached, and their fate lay clenched in trembling hands. What would the next moment unravel? Where would the true battle lead? Would they harness the power of fear or succumb to the abyss that approached? With despair clawing at their sanity, the historian braced for impact. Would they all rise together, or would the darkness consume them one by one? Only time would reveal the chilling truth. The room erupted into a cacophony of panic as the grotesque figures drew closer, their hollow eyes boring into the hearts of those assembled. The historian's voice cut through the maelstrom. Form a shield. No gaps between us. Hands shook, sweat glistened on brows, but the crowd formed a line, pressing close together like desperate soldiers preparing for battle. Their breath quickened, fingers trembling against the coldness of the vial. Suddenly, a horrifying screech pierced the air, an unearthly sound that echoed off the damp walls. The creature inched forward, its sly grin widening, savoring the terror. So close, it whispered, the words curling like smoke around the vibrating tension. Such exquisite fear. Will you embrace it? Not without a fight, shouted the young man, clutching a broken piece of wood as a weapon. His resolve inspired others, a flicker of determination igniting their hearts despite the overwhelming anxiety. As the twisted figures surged into the room, careening like marionettes in a frenzied dance, the historian yelled, "Now! Hold the line!" The first harbinger of darkness lunged, its spindly fingers outstretched. The historian swung the vial with all their strength, illuminating the darkness as it caught the creature's eye. Time froze for a heartbeat, an unspoken pact forming in the tension-filled air. If they could just, but then chaos reigned. The spindly creature collided with the line, members stumbling backward, barely maintaining their formation. A woman screamed as a sharp claw grazed her arm, crimson blooming beneath her sleeve. Fear and pain twisted the air, leaving a metallic taste on their tongues. "Push back!" cried the elderly man, his voice a fragile thread branching into adrenaline-fueled shouts, urging them onward. The historian felt their heart thundering in response. They thrust the vial forward, its glowing contents sparking against the approaching darkness. Beneath the avalanche of dread, something strange happened. A rush of energy shot through the vial, the glow pulsing brighter, cradling their courage like a fragile flame. "Use the light. Let it guide you," they implored, even as the shadowy tide surged closer. Suddenly, the room's oppressive darkness split. The light from the vial flickered and exploded outward, revealing the true horror of the twisted figures. They weren't just empty shells, each of them carried echoes of lost souls, their faces distorted in anguish, grasping for something just out of reach. "What are they?" A voice emerged from the thrumming fear. Reflections of the curse we've unearthed. The historian shouted, realization dawning on them like that searing light. They are manifestations of despair. We have to break the cycle. The insight sparked a flicker of hope, but would it be enough? As the throng pressed tighter, the historian felt the weight of despair anchor them down. They needed to harness the power of the vial, to imbue every ounce of energy into their collective will and force these dark specters back. Focus! They shouted, raising the vial aloft, its glow pulsating rhythmically. Together. Channel your strength. The figures recoiled, their anguished faces contorting in rage, but the historian felt the collective energy swell, a pulse of hope resonating from them. They were not alone, not powerless. But that surge was threatened by a deep rumbling that shook the very walls. You think you can erase me? The creature's voice cut through the noise, icy and mocking. You know not the darkness you awaken. The shadows writhed, swirling with a tempest of despair as reality itself began to fracture, voices of the past mixing with the present in a discordant symphony of fear. What do we do? Cried the young man, eyes darting between the historian and the vessel. Trust in the light. The historian urged, grasping at the moment of unity, trying to hold on to this flicker of strength. It's our only chance. Yet the shadows pushed back with relentless fury, and something deep within the historian quaked. What if this wasn't just about defeating the darkness? What if they were a part of it, too? Panic clawed at their insides, but before they could voice the fear, a dark shape surged from the back, a new threat joining the fray, eyes shining with malicious intent. Hold fast. The historian urged, sensing that everything hinged on the next heartbeat. Would bravery be their savior or lead them to their doom? As the creature lunged, time felt suspended, and the ultimate truth threatened to reveal itself. What would happen when the light finally met the encroaching darkness? Would they be swallowed whole, or could they forge a fragile bridge into the unknown? In that moment, trepidation swallowed them whole. And just like that, they were on the edge of a revelation. The monstrous form surged toward them, a harrowing blend of shadows and malice. The historian's heart raced, fueled by the weight of desperation. The viol's glow flickered, caught in the crossfire of hope and fear. The crowd seemed to hold its breath, each fragmented gaze pinned on the approaching nightmare. Don't let it break us. The historian cried, channeling every ounce of resolve. Hold the line. Remember what we fight for. But doubt seeped through the gaps, as cold as ice. The creature's twisted grin seemed to echo the unspoken fears shared among them. With every step it took, darkness unfurled like a cloak, glistening with the anguish of memories long lost. Faces distorted in the shadows, mouths twisted in silent screams. Suddenly, the young man lunged forward, brandishing his makeshift weapon, a desperate act of courage igniting his spirit. No! We can't give in. He charged, drawing the attention of the beast. Back! The historian shouted, desperate to pull him away. But it was too late. Darkness surged like a tidal wave, crashing against their defenses. A terrible howl erupted, vibrating the walls and rattling their bones, but the light of the vial pulsed back, clipping evil's claws in a burst of chaotic brilliance. But this confrontation felt different. Fleeting visions darted before the historian's eyes, faces of the past, people they had known, connections made long ago. Each lost soul showed its anguish, their pain seeping into the very fabric of reality. They weren't just fighting for survival but for something more profound, something intertwined in their collective fate. Focus on the light. The historian urged again, fighting back their internal tumult. Use the warmth we have. It's our bond that keeps the darkness at bay. The atmosphere shifted. The crowd began to chant, melding their voices into a chorus of hope, punctuating the air like drumming hearts. The light surged from the vial, casting a golden warmth over their trembling forms. They could feel the energy coursing through them, binding them tighter as one. The figures reeled back, shocked by the fierce unity emerging. The darkness twisted, shrieking in fury, losing its grip on the very essence of despair it had sought to consume. "Yes!" a woman screamed, her voice cutting through the noise. "It's working! Use it!" But just as victory seemed within their grasp, the beast lunged again, this time with a calculated ferocity. The historian's resolve wavered as the cold claws grazed their arm, sending a shockwave of searing pain through their body. They stumbled backward, the vial slipping from their fingers. Time blurred as desperation surged anew. The historian lunged, grasping for the vial. The struggle against the dark creature intensified, each pulse of light intertwined with their heartbeat, an unyielding rhythm throbbing in defiance of despair. Then, in a moment of piercing clarity, the historian understood this battle wasn't solely against the specters before them. It was a mirror of their own fears. A truth they had carried, unseen yet palpable. "We are the light!" they exclaimed, voice booming and resonant. "Every one of us. We must face our own shadows." The crowd exchanged anxious glances, realization dawning within them. But before action could surface, a deeper shadow slithered through the turmoil, a figure more menacing than the rest, a malevolent entity within the darkness, eyes gleaming with sinister intent. With a scream that shattered the precarious calm, it forces its way through the fractured reality, whispering promises only to test their courage. "Have you forgotten? You cannot escape your past or mine." The very walls trembled, shaking beneath the weight of old regrets and dreams unfulfilled. The historian's breath hitched, chest tight with the burden of truth. Had they unknowingly stirred something worse? Amid the chaos, the vial flickered in response, caught between light and shadow, glimmering with the potential of revelation or destruction. "Together!" shouted the young man, rallying the crowd. "Together we can confront it all. We must not falter." But would it be enough to hold back the tide? As shadows swirled, the entities wove tighter, seeking their final grasp on hope. In the split second that followed, an ominous silence fell, the room straining with every heart that beat. What remained of their resolve hung like a thread, lightly drifting toward the edge of oblivion. What price would they pay for their truths? Would it drown them all in darkness, or could they rise together to face their fate? The ultimate battle was about to unfold, and only the dawn would reveal the scarred remnants of their souls. The silence crashed down like a heavy wave, suffocating hope as the shadows thickened. Every breath felt like a fight, clawing against an unseen weight that pressed on their chests. The historian's heart thundered in rhythm with the pounding darkness, each beat screaming for survival. "Eyes on me!" the historian shouted, trying to pierce the gloom that threatened to consume them. "We don't let fear lead. We stand together." But courage felt thin, like a thread about to snap. The crowd's chants faltered, wavering beneath the relentless advance of the horror that twisted and pulsed with dark intent. Faces once alive with determination now flickered with panic, their strength fading like the dimming glow of the vial. With a roar, the malevolent entity lunged again, sharper and more menacing, a shadow with teeth. It moved with a speed that stung, a nightmare-given flesh. The historian saw friends and strangers alike scatter, fear driving them back. "Don't break ranks. We need each other." The air crackled as they drew together, forming a protective circle. The young man held the now trembling historian's gaze, his brow furrowed in fierce determination. "We are not alone. We face this together." Suddenly, the vial flared with blinding light, illuminating the gathering like a lighthouse in a storm. Shadows hesitated, briefly halted in their advance. Bright energy pulsed outwards, weaving through the crowd, igniting latent courage like kindling to flame. Then, the ground trembled as if echoing the power of their unity. Something stirred in the very fabric of reality. "Yes! Yes!" the historian shouted, adrenaline surging. "It's not just light, it's our truth. Every regret and joy woven together." But the creature howled, its voice a discordant symphony of rage and desperation. "You think you can rewrite your past? I am the keeper of that which you seek to hide." A chill ran through the crowd, freezing laughter and cheer in their throats. There was a single, horrified silence as memories, long buried and painful, began to surface. Specters of loss, heartbreak, and choices long regretted flitted around the edges of their resolve, whispering doubts that gnawed at their hearts. No. We are stronger. We rise from our shadows. The historian's voice boomed, trying to drown out the darkness. The crowd's energy swelled under the historian's encouragement, igniting a growing light as they remembered the moments of joy that once colored their lives, yet the creature pushed against their light, feeding off those fears like a parasite. With each pulse of energy, its silhouette darkened, swelling with malevolence. I hold the weight of your past and I will make you break. Panic skittered through the air, palpable and raw, rendering the crowd momentarily helpless. The historian's breath hitched, vision narrowing. They could feel the shadow clawing at their mind, a churning vortex of despair. What if they weren't enough? What if the darkness consumed them all? Just as doubt threatened to snuff out the light, a voice arose from the back of the crowd. An elder, gray and wise, stepped into the light. You are not your pain. Together, we are the story yet to be told. The poignant reminder resounded through the throng, reigniting their unity. The warmth returned, and the historian felt it swell from deep within, a fierce fire that began to burn away fear. Together. They shouted again, rallying the energy around them. We are the light in our own history. Beneath the radiant glow, a crack formed in the darkness. Hope flickered anew, a beacon of what they could achieve. But still, they could feel the darkness shift, whispering persistent lies, clawing against the fragile barricade of light. What will you sacrifice to be free? It taunted, that sinister grin widening, straining to reclaim its grip. The question hung heavy, each heart echoing with doubt. The path forward shimmered, enticing yet dangerous. Would they embrace the price of truth, or would they fold under the pressure of that very fear they sought to face? The moment of reckoning loomed, and as shadows danced around them, the crowd's determination began to budge, trembling with uncertainty. What would they choose? Would they answer the darkness with light or succumb to the relentless weight of their history? The answer awaited them within the impending storm, and the dawn was yet to break. The crowd shifted, a living organism writhing with tension and uncertainty. Each person felt that question split their resolve into shards. What will you sacrifice to be free? The historian's heart raced, pounding in sync with the flickering energy around them. The air had become a battlefield of emotions where even the smallest hope felt endangered. Focus. The historian called, channeling every ounce of strength into their voice. This is our moment, our history. We are not defined by our darkness. Hands tightened around each other, faces turned toward the light spilling from the vial. Blue and gold radiance burst forth, sending waves of warmth through the gathering. Just as quickly, the shadows pressed against them, cold and cruel, the creature's chilling laughter echoing like a distant thunder. Your past is a prison, it rasped, slithering closer. White-hot fear surged as its words sliced through the air. You cannot escape. One woman in the front, her face pale, echoed the creature's words with a shudder. What if we are not enough? Her voice trembled, a whisper of despair that cascaded through the crowd. When the historian locked eyes with her, they saw not just fear but a brittle flicker of defiance. We are enough. Each scar tells our story. Look around you. Together, we are stronger than our past. The vitriol in the shadows surged again, but the elder's earlier words rang louder now. We are the story yet to be told. The historian thought of every loss, every cherished moment, and how those memories could not diminish them now. They could either allow those shadows to drag them down or use their insights to fashion a mighty beacon of hope. With a deep breath, the historian mustered a chant, a strange blend of joy and desperation. Remember your love. Remember your strength. Others picked up the mantra, voices lifting together, spiraling high into the night. Together. 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 The darkness recoiled, its body twitching like a wounded animal. The ground shook violently, but the crowd stood firm, shoulders squared against the onslaught. The shadows writhed in agony, straining to find purchase but slipping through the unity that had formed. The historian felt an electrifying surge of power rise as the energies intertwined, fueling bright tendrils that chased the dark entity back. Yet, amid that triumph, doubt seethed beneath the surface, whispering insidiously, "Will you sacrifice your deepest truths?" The historian could see its intent to unravel them. These whispers reeked of temptation and betrayal, threatening to strip away the very essence of who they were. "I won't trade my truth. I embrace it," the historian cried, defiance flavoring their words. But did they mean it? Would revealing everything, every regret and sorrow, come at a price they couldn't afford? The creature howled, its twisted face contorting with fury. "Then let us see, historian, what you are truly willing to sacrifice." With that, a sinister wave rippled through the crowd, a tangible fear that crackled in the air. As the collective courage surged, the barrier of light shimmered, flickering like a damaged beacon. Heartbeats quickened, breaths came shallower. Then it happened, a burst of memories exploded in unison, crashing over them like a tidal wave. Visions swirled, friends lost, paths not taken, and love left broken. Each haunting memory collided with bright moments, smiles, laughter, the sound of soft music, and the taste of freedom. The historian staggered. The effort to process it all felt like drowning. The ground quaked again, stronger this time, as the creature twisted in dark delight. "Choose now. Sacrifice your pride, your secrets. What can you leave behind to stay whole?" The historian's mind raced, chaos swirling like a storm. Would they risk it all for the fragile thread of hope? Would they expose their vulnerabilities to reclaim their story? A hand gripped the historian's shoulder, pulling them back from the edge. The young man, eyes fierce with bravery, nodded solemnly. "Together," he reminded, and the strength of his belief shot through them. Both. But would this unified stand be enough to stave off the darkness? The shadows pulsed, eager for their answer. The next choice loomed in the dim corners of their hearts, a haunting whisper. What would they sacrifice? The answer was just out of reach, hovering dangerously close to the brink, and as the shadows converged, the historian realized the true horror lay in the question itself. Would they dare confront what lurked beneath their deepest fears? The air grew thick with tension, a fragile fabric stretched taut as the historian's voice broke through the chaos. "We will not be defined by our fears. We face our truths together." Pulses quickened as the crowd echoed their resolve, myriad voices merging into a potent chant. "Together! Together!" It sparked like wildfire, illuminating the darkness. But the creature lashed out, its claws etching fear into their hearts, scrambling against their fervor. It howled at the merging light, a desperate, vengeful beast unwilling to be tamed. "Can you feel it? The weight of your past trying to break through? I am here to remind you." It growled, a taunting grin between elongated fangs. Sudden memories flooded through the collective, each a tentative blade that cut deeper. Laughter shared with loved ones, hearts fractured by loss, whispers of regrets floating like distant phantoms. The historian staggered, the onslaught threatening to drown them in the tide of despair. Then amidst it all, the young man stood firm, his light burning brighter. "It's the amalgamation of our stories," he shouted. "Together we are unbreakable. We are defined by resilience." Determination surged like a rising tide, threatening to drown fear beneath their shared will. The whispers of sacrifice transformed into a radiance that surged from their core, lacing hope through each heart. The historian gripped the vial tighter, feeling its energy ripple through the fabric of their bond. "Channel it," the historian urged, raising the vial high. "With each truth shared, we will fight back." They could see the warmth washing over their group, dispelling dark fragments, shadows peeling back like old paint. With each chanting breath, the light flared, illuminating the specters of their histories. The creature recoiled, its expression shifting between confusion and rage. "You are fools. believing you can rewrite history. It screeched, gnarled hands clawing towards the warmth. Not rewrite, the historian responded firmly, but embrace. Our truth binds us in ways you cannot fathom. The room vibrated against the crescendo of their unity. As they stood stronger together, the shadows faltered, wavering in the brilliance that poured from the vial. It transformed into a river of luminescence that surged against the encroaching darkness. Then, with elegant defiance, the historian stepped forward, beacon-like. We may falter, we may stumble, but you will not claim us. We stand united. Show us your strength. The shadows screamed, twisting in despair as the light pressed closer, bright against the tears of dark anguish. The multitude of overlapping truths surged forward as waves of emotion washed over the entity, wrapping around like chains of light. The historian felt it, the bond, the weight of shared histories, the reminder of every battle they faced. This is who we are. Their voice rang out, each syllable rising like a phoenix. Fragile yet fierce, bold yet scared, we will not cower. We choose to rise. And all it took was that spark. The darkness recoiled, losing its grip on fear. The warm light glimmered fiercely before exploding like a supernova, casting shadows to the farthest corners and blinding the creature momentarily. It howled, primal and pained, the sound ripping through the air like a viscous knife. Now! The historian shouted, driving forward with the light, eyes set on the heart of the darkness. Force it back. With charged energy, the crowd advanced, the collective spell of unity unfurling around them. Strengthened by connection, they liked a phoenix, intertwining shadows and illuminating the dark entity. The historian whipped the vial around, guiding their might like a lighthouse cutting through fog. Their cries grew louder, reaching out towards a once shattered past that long held them captive. This is our moment. We will face our shadows. This is the truth and the power that sets us free. In that instant, the creature exploded into a cascade of brilliance, trapped within the fractures of its own making. Luminescence erupted where darkness had once reigned, illuminating even the darkest corners of the church. The remnants of forgotten souls spiraled into the light, echoes of anguish transformed into melodies of hope. The historian, breathless and startled, watched as the shadows scattered, screams silenced by the brilliance that poured through their hearts. Together, we rewrite our story, shouted the young man, and this time the crowd didn't hesitate. They surged closer together, marveling at the vision before them. The darkness, no longer consuming, was fading like morning mist. The haze of uncertainty lifted, revealing a world brimming with possibilities. The historian felt the warmth of camaraderie envelop them, a soft assurance radiating gently even against the sting of memories long buried. In that moment, the shadows dissipated. The doorway stood wide open, light pouring in as the dawn broke, illuminating the church in a brilliant array of colors. Hope danced through the crowd as a new future began to unfold. As they emerged from the darkness, laughter resonated, buoying spirits high as connection twisted into a vibrant tapestry of triumph, defiance, and newfound strength. And the historian turned back once more, nodding resolutely. We are more than our fears. Together, we write our history. The crowd cheered, hearts beating harmoniously beneath the dawning sky. They had faced the darkness and emerged stronger, not just as individuals but as a collective, ignited by connection and unified truth. Now, as all things returned to the quiet of reality, the historian whispered, let us never forget. With the first light warming their faces and the weight of shadows still fresh in their minds, a new chapter awaited them, full of promise and the fervor of life. They turned towards their shared horizon. The end was not an end, it was a beginning. But wait a moment. If you were captivated by this conclusion, you need to subscribe now. Don't miss out on our next exclusive stories. Hit that red button immediately. Smash the like button to help feed the algorithm. And please flood the comments with your thoughts and theories on this wild ride. Sharing is caring. Share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this. Don't wait even one more second. Show your support and join our incredible community.